I was looking at you thinking, there's just enough purple without being too purple.
It was a close call.
Yeah, I like.
My wife dresses me, so I take no credit.
Well, she did you well.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Angel, Mr. Armentor, Mr. Chatelain,
Here.
Mr. Jacobs, Ms. Jones,
as a conference first
thank for 1,600 of my peers with poise. I've learned to thrive in the midst of challenges, accept the beauty and appreciate the beauty of diversity, and most of all, work successfully with youth and adults from around the country. The greatest thing that the LSU Ag Center's 4-H program has taught me is the true meaning of leadership. Leadership is not about being a tyrant, and it's not about being bossy. It's about creating a framework that allows others to tap into their own skills and potentials. It's about growing leaders by inspiring and encouraging others. You know, looking back at my 4-H journey, it's amazing to see how far I've come. From a little 4th grader who was so excited to join a club with all the big kids, you know, I entered every contest so enthusiastically. I even built a birdhouse to enter into the parish fair. In the 5th grade, I ran for club parliamentarian, and while I may not have won the election, something stuck with me and a passion ignited within me. I continued my 4-H journey, and now, 9 years later, I represent the state of Louisiana and serve as state president. It is honestly a dream come true to hold this position because I was inspired in the 7th grade by the state 4-H president in 2012. Just like that president inspired me, I hope that I can inspire others. I say all of this to show you my passion for this organization. I believe in what 4-H is doing through youth. It changed my life, and it continually impacts the lives of our next generation of leaders. I truly believe that our state leaders will come from the 4-H program. The LSU Ag Center is responsible for all of this, and they're responsible for growing these leaders, and I'm very appreciative for that. So I want to thank you all for your continual support of the LSU Ag Center and all that it does for our surrounding communities. From the little girl who built the birdhouse in the 4th grade to the confident young woman I am today, thank you.
As a youth leader and orator, Stanley Celestine Jr. strives to affect other young people in a positive way. He has been a member of numerous youth organizations for several years, most notably 4-H. Throughout his 4-H career, Stanley has been fortunate to serve in a variety of leadership positions, including a Louisiana 4-H Executive Board officer, National 4-H Conference delegate. Along with his 4-H work, Stanley holds numerous a number of other national leadership positions and awards in the youth service and educational fields. The White House, the U.S. Department of Education, and Nickelodeon have commended Stanley's efforts. Upon graduation, Stanley plans to attend Louisiana State University Alexandria and study psychology with the aim of radically accelerating the science of practice of character development. Stanley, would you address the board?
Good afternoon. My name is Stanley Celestine Jr. I'm 17 years old and I'm a 9-year 4-H member. My 4-H project areas are citizenship and SET, science, engineering, and technology. I joined 4-H in the 4th grade and immediately threw myself into the adventure. I love the family that I have had the privilege to become a part of. Whether it was teaching workshops at JLC Junior Leadership Conference or setting up the PMAC for 4-H University, I always had the opportunity and joy to meet new friends and personally grow. Before I joined 4-H, it was nearly impossible for me to introduce myself or have a conversation with someone that I didn't know. I wouldn't even dream of public speaking. Participating in the various community service projects and speaking competitions allowed me the opportunity to deliver speeches I was passionate about and to receive helpful feedback. Through 4-H, I became a leader with skills above and beyond. Through my time as president of my parish 4-H club and a state 4-H officer, I had the opportunity to be a leader and role model for the true leaders of today, not tomorrow. As we say in 4-H, youth are not the leaders of tomorrow, but are the leaders of today. I also gained tremendous leadership and research skills through my time at National 4-H Conference in Washington, D.C. If someone asked me what was one of the greatest experiences of my life, I would definitely say 4-H. Through 4-H, I have gained valuable life skills, problem solving, and goal setting. I can complete any task that I set my mind to. I am grateful for the impact the 4-H program had and still has on me. It has molded me and made me the person I am today. In closing, I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak to you all today, and thank you for your continued support of the LSU Ag Center and the 4-H program. Thank you.
Doesn't get much better than those two. Faculty member today is Dr. Regina Bracy. She's been with the LSU Ag Center for 40 years. She served in the Ag Center as a professor of horticulture and for 8 years as resident coordinator of the Hammond Research Station. Dr. Bracy is currently director of the Southeast region, overseeing 16 parishes and 3 research stations, a position she's held since 2013. A lifetime resident of Tangier Parish, she received her BS from Southeastern and her MS and PhD from LSU. You notice that she had been resident director of the Hammond Station for the last 8 years, which means she took over right after Katrina. As Scott and some others know, the whole transformation of the North Shore after Katrina was humongous. And we converted that station into a horticulture facility, which is now I think one of the jewels in the LSU crown. And I would love all of you to get by to see it. But first, I want Regina to make some comments to you about what she does over there. Dr. Bracy?
Thank you. I'd like to tell you about the Hammond Research Station. Like Dr. Richardson had mentioned, I started out there as a researcher, and then I went on to lead the station, and now I'm leading the region. So I'd just like to tell you a little about it and how that was accomplished. The Hammond Research Station was established in 1922. It's one of the oldest research stations in the LSU Ag Center system. And it was started as the Fruit and Truck Experiment Station to serve the needs of the strawberry and fruit and vegetable farmers in the southeast Louisiana. So for over 80 years, that is what we did. We did research on strawberries and vegetables. But then what happened? In 2004, then Chancellor Richardson asked for a 5-year vision for the station. This was prior to Katrina, but we were already seeing a decrease in our vegetable farmers in the area. There was a lot of urbanization happening, and we thought the Hammond Station was ideally positioned to fill the landscape horticulture research and extension or education needs. So that's where we came up with the idea of the Landscape Horticulture Research and Extension Center. This is a program. It is not a building, and it's housed at the Hammond Research Station. So in the beginning, what we did is we actually developed a committee, and we got stakeholders on this committee. So they were really the ones who drove the vision for the station to tell us what they thought we needed. So they gave us our direction. We developed a master plan, which we have since completed over 90% of it. And in 2005, we actually began the implementation. Now, why landscape horticulture? The nursery and landscape industry in Louisiana is about a $2.2 billion industry. Now, we don't just have producers, we also do a lot of service industries like retail sales and landscape activities. So this really is an area that we have not served in the LSU Ag Center. Why landscape horticulture? Because 80% of the hits on our website, the LSU Ag Center website, people are requesting information on landscapes, horticulture, vegetable fruits. So it just seemed like there is a desire out there for this information. Also, I'll mention that almost everybody has a plot of grass that they have to maintain, or they have some type of yard. Even if they live in an apartment, people want to have plants growing inside or on their patio. So we touch everybody. Why Hammond Research Station? Well, the Hammond Station is situated in the rapidly developing I-10, I-12 corridor, and this was before Katrina, and after Katrina, the area really boomed. We're located in one of the fastest growing areas of the state. About a majority of the state's population is within an hour to an hour and a half drive from the station, and a big portion of the nursery and landscape industry is actually located in the parishes surrounding the station. So the Hammond Research Station, as Dr. Richardson mentioned, is the only research station in the South that is dedicated to landscape horticulture. Other universities may have a part of their station that's landscape horticulture or something. We are the only one that's all we do. We don't have any animals on the station except for a cat. So the Hammond Station, we provide research-based information on improving the quality of urban-suburban life by focusing on human-effective environments. In simple terms, we do research on what happens to plants when you put them in your landscape. So we tell you what mulch to use, what plants do best, what time to plant them, this kind of stuff. So our research is geared towards growers, retailers, landscape architects, contractors, and maintenance professionals. We actually are geared towards the commercial industry, but so much of what we find out can be passed on to the consumers, so there's a lot of consumer interest in what we do at the Hammond Station. We average about 1.8 meetings per week. The station staff gives tours or actually presentations at about 70% of those meetings. And we have about 10,000 people visit the station in 2015. Dr. Alan Owens, who is the current director of the station, he says if you're there on weekends, there's just a parade of people coming in. We are the largest ornamental plant trials that are offered by land-grant universities in the Southeast, South Central USA. So we do 1,500 to 2,000 plants are evaluated each year. I like to tell people that we're not just a pretty face, because everything that's planted out there is being evaluated. So just to give you some ideas of just a few of the gardens we have a care and maintenance area here. This is usually not the prettiest place because we're evaluating plants for possible plant growth regulators, weed control, mulches, which plants do best. So sometimes it doesn't look the prettiest. We also have areas where we do work in the greenhouse. Here you see some people counting thrips, where we're actually evaluating biopesticides and how to control them in the greenhouse. We have shade gardens. We have the Margie Jenkins Azalea Garden. This particular garden was named after a lady in the area. You may know her. She is known for her knowledge. We held a garden party in her favor and raised $50,000. And that's how we got funding for a lot of this. This is the Piney Woods Garden. It's one of our newest locations. The Hody Wilson Garden is the work that was done by a previous superintendent of the station. He's renowned for his camellia breeding work, and so we have a collection there. These are just some more gardens that we have coming up. Every time I ride through there, I see another garden popping up. So we are continually expanding. I never thought we'd run out of room, but if Alan Owens keeps going, we will. We have a number of annual events. These are ones that are held every year. Plus, we have additional events where we have a lot of school children, Boy Scouts, Master Gardeners coming through and taking tours. Our Facebook page is very popular, getting about 8,000 hits weekly. So this is done by Alan Owens, and he does an excellent job. If you want information on what's doing well, what to plant now, this is where to go. I also want to tell you about a program started there called Louisiana Super Plants. This was a brainchild of Dr. Alan Owens, Dan Gill, and myself. We got a specialty crop grant from the Department of Ag and Forestry. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, and your support from Farm Bureau in helping us get this. So this particular program is a plant promotion program developed by the LSU Ag Center. This was something the industry wanted, and it highlights reliable and beautiful plants with proven state performance. It's university tested, meaning that it is tested through the LSU Ag Center, and it's industry approved because we have industry members serving on the committee to help us select these plants. If you will look in your book here on page 3031, they have a complete listing of all the plants that we have released. There's been about, I think there's a total of 28. I haven't counted them lately. Also in the LSU Louisiana Agriculture Magazine, there's also an article in here about the Hammond Research Station. The other thing that was given to you was a map of the gardens. This has to be updated annually because we keep adding more gardens. And then you were also given a Louisiana a lawn and garden calendar that features, I'm sure some of those plants were taken at the Hammond Station, but that gives you tips and information about things growing in Louisiana. I want to tell you about the impact of the super plants. It said that 80% said of the people who were interviewed, which was the retailers, that it had a positive effect on their business, and all the respondents indicated that it actually increased their overall sales because it brought people into their businesses. So as for Louisiana super plants, because they've been proven and tested by the LSU Ag Center, and come out and visit us at the Hammond Research Station. Come see what we have growing. Thank you.
Just one closing comment. We do have these for sale. Our budget's really tight, so these make great Christmas gifts you want to pick up some of them and get them out. So thank you very much, Mr.
Mr. Chairman. Can I make a comment? Yes. Thank you, Bill. Regina, that was a great discussion about the research station out there and the work that y'all do and how it impacts, not just that area, but all of the state. And I think we lose track from time to time about how much the Ag Center affects everything that we do, from the food we eat to the way our lawns look, the way we landscape and do all that other stuff. But really the key point that was made today, I don't think, we have a lot of people come and address the board, and we have not had anybody come that's better than these high school kids that came. I guess I should say young people rather than kids. They are young adults, and they are impressive. And we talk about the volume of 4-H students that participate statewide, and sometimes we overlook the quality that we have and the impact of public speaking and other things that the 4-H club work generates and does for them. It's just amazing. And the more you get involved and the more you see how that impacts the students and the people in the state, I think you'd be very impressed. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Dr. Bracy. And thank you, students, for being here.
If I could add to that, Ronnie, when I get asked by many legislators, and I'm told that the Ag Center doesn't have any students, we have 44,000 university students throughout the LSU system and LSU, but we have 200,000 4-H kids on the way. And through the 4-H programs and through LSU, they may not be in college right now, but they're all pre-college. And to have 200,000 out there benefiting from the programs that our Ag Center is doing is quite remarkable in every corner of the state. So let's not underestimate the long lines and the pipeline that we're building, the pipeline to LSU, the pipeline through LSU, of these great young people that are all over the state and are 200,000 strong that benefit from these programs. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say I was an English major in college, and I have a law degree. I love the English language, and I pride myself on my vocabulary. But the word thrips I had never heard. I looked it up, and it's little insects. So thank you for teaching me a new word.
It's similar to an ischiocolossus.
Thank you, Dr. Richardson. Next item is approval of the minutes of the board meeting held October 21st, 2016, which were previously provided.
Motion to approve. Second.
First, second. We got a motion, we got a second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the Board of Supervisors on October 21st, 2016. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion is adopted.
Oh, call roll.
Oh, we need to call roll, please. No, we don't need to on that. Yeah, we did, we did.
We did, okay. All right.
For the board?
We did.
You were here.
Oh, I remember.
Stephanie says we did.
He doesn't remember, he forgot already.
Thank you, Stephanie.
That may be a bad sign.
We're going to need Senator Murray to be our parliamentarian.
We will now move to item number 4, personnel actions requiring board approval. Dr. Alexander, can you explain some of these recommendations?
Yes, I have a number of senior leadership appointments and amendments for your consideration today. All are consistent with the board's desire to become administratively lean and to put more dollars toward our missions in education, research, and service. I'll start with changes in the academic medical arena. I'm requesting the appointment of Dr. Larry Oye as LSU's Chief Health Affairs Officer in addition to his current role as Chancellor. The Chief Health Affairs Officer will take on oversight and management of the Healthcare Services Division, HCSD, work collaboratively with Dr. Ghali in Shreveport to ensure the coordination between our 2 medical campuses and serve as our point person in negotiations with hospital partners and with our legislators. I'm also requesting the finalization of Dr. Ghali as permanent Chancellor and Dean of Medicine at the Health Sciences Center at Shreveport in October, and where he took over in October. And there were in October there were 2 very nice events to celebrate his appointment in Shreveport. That was attended by about 100+ people, doctors and medical staff, as well as community members, and in Monroe in November, that recognized the appointment of Dr. Ghali. Dr. Ghali, he can't be here today because he has had surgery and he's recovering from surgery himself, but he's had a distinguished 20-year career as a clinical faculty member and departmental chair prior to agreeing to serve as interim chancellor in February and as interim chancellor and dean of medicine in July. These changes consolidate the decision-making processes, adding to the health sciences centers and our much faster responses. This will also save more than $500,000 in salaries that we can put back into training the health professionals of our state. This is also in line with the rare instance of today's higher education marketplace and the continued consolidation of what we have done here at LSU in administrative positions. Recently, LSU was recognized by the Heckinger Report for being one of the very few universities across the country that had consolidated consistently in this fashion. You have a sheet in your packet that shows that nationwide, university systems since 2007 to 2014 have grown by 15.5% in number of personnel. I'm proud to say that because of the fact that many of our administrators have taken on dual responsibilities and done many other things, that our administration in our LSU system has declined by 35.5%, bucking the national trend by nearly 50 percentage points. This move is also, it is consistent with what we've been doing at LSU. We are all familiar with the gentleman that we are advancing today. So I would like to recommend to the board, as part of the personnel action, the addition of Dr. Ghali and the new appointment of Dr. Larry Oye. Also, I'd like to point to a recent, that he was here earlier, following a national search that yielded many, many excellent candidates. I'm recommending the appointment of Dr. Guiyu Wong as the next Chancellor of LSU Alexandria, effective January 1, 2017. Dr. Wong is currently Senior Vice President Academic Affairs at Norwich in Vermont, and his bio is included in your packet. I would also like to thank Blake Chatelain for his taking the lead role in making this search so successful for LSU Alexandria. I request your approval of these 3 personnel actions as part of the package.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Are there any questions for Dr. Alexander? Okay.
Only I'll say is good work.
Well, I'm going to
Two very
do a motion after because,
Two very qualified men, Dr. Ghali and Dr. Oye.
yes, I agree. Board, I also wanted to point out that one of the recommendations is a 1-year extension for Dr. Alexander. Back in September, we met in executive session to discuss Dr. Alexander's annual performance evaluation. I subsequently met with the president to review our discussion and the external feedback we received from LSU stakeholders. Given his excellent performance over the past year advocating for a stable budget during the legislative session, his engagement with students and his focus on student retention, enrollment, and graduation performance, as well as his administrative focus on the implementation of several cost-saving efficiency initiatives, a renewed focus on institutional advancement, and his continued promotion of college affordability, accessibility, and accountability on a national platform, I respectfully ask for your support of this recommendation. Tom, do you have any other comments about the recommendations before the board?
Well, I'll abstain with regard to comment on Dr. Alexander's contract, but as to the rest of them, staff has reviewed and approved.
Okay. Thank you. Board, are there any questions? At this time, I would like to recognize Zach for a motion. Is there a second? Second?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, before we vote, I would just, Mr. Skinner, I would like to note, and I certainly have no issues with any of the items on the agenda, but due to some potential conflicts of interest, I will abstain from voting, so.
Thank you. Sorry, Blake.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to recognize Zach for a motion. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to approve the personnel actions requiring board approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion is adopted.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we have so much faster than Mr. Moore now.
Mr. Moore's still number one.
Still got the record.
Thank y'all. Those are very, very good movement on the board, and King, your leadership on hiring, so thank y'all. At this time, I would like to recognize Dr. Cope. Would you please address the board on behalf of the Council of Faculty Advisors?
Thank you very much, Chairman Ballard, and good wishes to all during the UL season. And I'd like to begin in particular by thanking the 3 novice members of the Board of Supervisors for meeting with us this afternoon and opening a dialogue and increasing the rapport between the faculty delegation and those who do so much to manage the institutions. As befits the UL season, I have a sleigh full of information, some of it good, some of it interesting, none of it without the value that attention brings, but we'll try to slip through that as quickly as Santa's sleigh slides over the snowy fields. First of all, we've got 3 items that point up the importance of diffusing some of the innovations on the Baton Rouge campus around the system. First, this week, the faculty delegation met with a young man, Greg Trahan, who has recently made one of the 40 under 40 of Baton Rouge. to talk about the expansion of the faculty expertise database so that perhaps not only in Baton Rouge but around the state, when people are looking for expert speakers or perhaps also solutions to problems, they can easily delve into a computer site and find somebody here on the campus or here on the Alexandria campus or here on the Eunice campus or any place else where the many tentacles of LSU embrace the people. Second, we've been looking at the problem of game day. Unfortunately, many members of our community have noticed that the campus is looking worse and worse after one of our gladiatorial spectacles. Fortunately, we've had a chance to meet with Tony Lombardo and also with Rick Kobeck and with Dan Lazell, and are on the brink of bringing forth a proposal of a game day policy that will aim to encourage, in particular, student culture to treat the campus and its physical heritage with a little bit more respect. Another item in the area of respect and the educational experience is the matter of disability accommodations. In the way that investigative reporters sometimes do, we have discovered that the number of accommodations has gone up twofold over the past 7 years. While we're not averse to recognizing the challenges with which people deal, we are somewhat concerned with the possibility of the abuse of the disability accommodation, and so met with the Director of Disability Services on this campus to get a picture of the disability accommodation statewide. That is still a work in progress, but it is indeed something we're going to look at because, unfortunately, we have a number of cases of documented abuse of the disability system. Going to a more macroscopic level, this month the faculty delegations from around the state met in Alexandria for their quarterly meeting. There we encountered Commissioner Rallo, who has emerged as a great fan of faculty audiences. I'm happy to report that he has a worthwhile initiative in his so-called 15 to finish undertaking, which aims to get students to take enough courses to finish their education before TOPS runs out. But we are, I think, collectively somewhat concerned about the message that that might be sending with regard to the longer-term educational project, including going to graduate school or staying in the university long enough and at a pace that is sufficiently forgiving so that one can make a larger career for oneself. We've also had any number of secret meetings. As I mentioned to the supervisors earlier, I've, in my 10 years in this podium, met in everywhere from a 6 o'clock in the morning rendezvous at a Salvadoran restaurant to in the middle of Tiger Stadium. We had quite a few secret meetings this month. A number of the graduate directors from around the system asked to meet with me to discuss the status of graduate education in this state and to ask whether the Board of Supervisors might help us to promote, once again, education beyond the baccalaureate level. I am therefore petitioning you to help us with that as we continue our dialogue. Second, we've talked extensively with Dan Lazell about the problems presented by the conversion of the Chief Information Officer into a Chief Technology Officer. On the one hand, this helps the creation of an efficient system-wide computer arrangement. On the other hand, it tends to take away some of the emphasis from the academic side of computing. Fortunately, Dan, as always, is full of ideas. We're satisfied that we're moving forward and are welcoming our new CTO. And finally, what can I say in this particular subset, other than that we work every day on Workday? I think we all know the story there, but we are making progress with the cooperation of our fine faculty consultants. This being the Yule season, once again, as the darkness comes on, the mind has more time to expand over the open spaces of night. There are two ideologically provocative items that are happening on the campuses. One is that a number of campuses are seeing an attempt to take up union cards or union commitment cards among the graduate student teaching assistants, subsequent to the NLRB decision with regard to the status of graduate students in private institutions. That, of course, does not directly apply here, but I think it is something of a bellwether indicating that we need to be a little bit more concerned about the situation of graduate students, many of whom are living at sub-poverty levels. We also expect, given the fact that we've had such a hard time helping you help us advance the interests of faculty, we expect visits from both the collective bargaining unit of the AAUP and from the National Education Association, which see possibility, as we've seen in recent elections, to mobilize some of the simmering anger that's out there underneath the Christmas merriment. Finally, in this area of thinking about things at Christmas time, at Hanukkah time, at Kwanzaa time, at the great festival of atheist disengagement, I would suggest that we ought at least to think of one thing in our collective powerlessness. We have a situation now where one member of the LSU community will get a nearly $750,000 dollop in the form of a job application incentive payment. This is all well and good. We wish that person well. But ask yourself, as Santa flies over the snowy field, what will faculty who have, in many cases for 10 years, gone without a raise, think when one person in the LSU community gets such an enormous emolument? With that, I wish you all happy holidays. Thank you, Stanley Jacobs, for your magnificent display of wintertime scarf apparel last night, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you, Kevin. The staff advisors do not have a report this meeting. Dr. Alexander, would you please present your report to the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to start by recognizing and thanking Dr. Haywood Joyner. He stepped in as our interim chancellor at LSUA and has been just about everything else at LSUA. And he has always been there for us. He's always been there for the institution, for the students. And he has served so many different roles in times of need and times of crisis. And I'd just like to start by recognizing the great efforts, the great loyalty, the great support to LSU that Dr. Haywood Joyner exhibits each and every day. Dr. Chancellor. I'd also like to thank Texas A&M. On football Saturday, what most people didn't see because of television or if you weren't there, Texas A&M students raised $18,000 for disaster relief for our students and faculty and staff. And it was matched by the provost and it was matched by the president, so a check of $50,000 was delivered, and I'd like to thank Michael Young and his team and the students of Texas A&M, and have that on the record, for supporting our students, supporting our faculty and staff with a wonderful check, a donation of $50,000 from the Texas A&M family. Other disaster relief, I'd like to thank everybody, and just to recap it, I'd like to thank all of those that supported our Student Disaster Relief Fund, which generated over $61,000 in student support. I'd also like to thank all those that supported that, which was brand new, our LSU Employee Assist Fund, Disaster Assist Fund, which raised $126,000, and many of our board, certainly the majority, if not all of our entire board, contributed to both of these funds. I'd like to thank everybody for their support and certainly have that on the record that many people came to the aid of our faculty, staff, and students. The Ag Center Employee Relief Fund also came through with $10,000 raised for Ag Center employee relief. The Health Sciences Center in New Orleans also raised $37,400 in disaster relief as well. And the Pennington Relief Fund raised $22,795 for a total amount given to disaster relief this past fall of $220,000, which is quite exceptional. Thank you. That shows the caring and concern of a great LSU family and those outside of our confines. In your folder, you have a TOPS handout. These are talking points and facts about TOPS. Our students have received their bills. We have done everything possible to notify many of the volunteers, called 14,000 TOPS recipients, to let them know of the options that are available, from deferred payments to other options, to financial aid, federal financial aid, which we have kept late open hours for many of our students. And we've done everything in our power to make sure that our students understand what avenues they have. This is perhaps the most important issue to us other than any other institution, because we have over 14,000 TOPS recipients. 38% of all TOPS funds come to LSU and come to our students at LSU. So when others say that they can handle the TOPS reduction, for LSU to take the TOPS reduction and try to handle it is about a $30 million plus hit that we cannot sustain at any point. We only receive $125 million from the state in its entirety. So we will be asked this question next week, and I just want people to understand that because we have done the best at keeping the best and brightest, this burden falls the most on LSU, if indeed those costs are turned to us as they were last spring. I mentioned the growth, the University System Office. The work that we've done to consolidate will continue. And now I'd like to call on Provost Kubek to just advise the board about a change to the Tiger Legacy program that was brought up at the last meeting.
At the last meeting, you approved Louisiana Tiger Legacy Program. There was a question related to using only ACTs. We did go back and review that, and we have modified that such that there's 3 cutoffs, 3.5, 3.65, and 3.8 is the GPAs for the 500, 750, and $1,000. And I appreciate Supervisor Williams for your comments, and it was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to see it resolved.
I'd also like to recognize Zach Faircloth, our student supervisor. Zach didn't make the exact final cut of 32, but he made the final cut of about 200 around the United States and represented this state at the Rhodes Scholar selection in Birmingham, Alabama. He was our Rhodes Scholar candidate, and he made it right to the final round in Birmingham, Alabama. So we're very proud of Zach. That is an amazing accomplishment, Zach. Earlier this week, perhaps the most important issue that I believe that we deal with in higher education, our graduation rates came out, and I'd like to share these with you to show progress and caution you that after 9 years and 15 cuts, that it's quite amazing that the work that our faculty and staff have done throughout LSU is quite amazing that we're able to still put up the numbers that we are putting up. And if you'd please turn on the PowerPoint. Here are the new campus graduation rates. These are 6-year graduation rates of 6-year cohorts. As you can see, the main campus is the top level, and that actually comes in at the second highest rate in our history. You can tell LSU S has improved from 33 to 37%, LSU A 20 to 23%, and LSU E has 11 to 16%. This is not an easy task, especially when you're reducing budgets and reducing personnel, particularly personnel that help students finish what they start. But to see our campuses all progressing in a very difficult time, or a time that most states have said is the worst time of any state in the country dealing with budget reductions, this is quite extraordinary. And I credit our faculty and our staff for caring this much about our students to make sure that we're still improving upon where we are. Next slide, please. It's not simply significant to improve upon the graduation rate. And we have worked with Washington and Department of Education to point out a couple key points. There are 3 things that are significant in knowing that a university is making great progress. One is that they're improving their rate. But if an institution is improving its rate at the expense of how many graduates it's producing by simply turning away the most academically challenged, then the university really is making hidden progress. It's not success. But I'm proud to say that on the main campus, we had our largest graduation numbers as well, 4,858. And as you can see, the previous record was in 2008. It's our largest graduating class as well at 1,769. Rates don't drive economies. Numbers of graduates do. That's what builds economies. That's what builds national economies, state economies, and regional economies. Next slide. You'll see the same is true with our smaller campuses. Significant improvement in the number of graduates at LSUS, feeding the Shreveport community. LSUE had a slight decline, but that was because of an enrollment decline that they've overcome, and we will certainly see improvement in this area because of the work that our chancellor has done in growing the institution by over 20%. And LSUA has seen steady improvement, putting almost 350, the largest graduating class in the Alexandria area, into the local economy. Next, please. It's also significant, and I've asked our chancellors to monitor these areas as well. The flagship campus is not only graduating the largest graduating class in its history, but as you can see, it's the largest African-American graduating class, the highest rate, as well as the largest Latino graduating class, the largest Asian American graduating class in our history. Our campuses are changing, and our ability to help every one of our students succeed is quite extraordinary under the circumstances that we've been dealing with. And I'd really like to thank the work that our faculty and staff and the commitment that they do to keep improving and keep showing improvement. Next slide, please. That should be it. The point is that we keep improving, we keep doing what the state wants us to do. Why don't they fund us? Why are we looking at our 16th cut in 9 years next week? We're doing everything the state wants us to do, and we're doing it better than we've ever done, under the worst state circumstances that we have faced, unlike any other state. So that's what I would like to have on the record, is that when we're asked about performance, we've never performed better under more adverse circumstances, and that's a real credit to our chancellors and a real credit to our faculty and staff.
King, can I say something, please?
Yes, Stanley.
I was fortunate enough to serve during the period we had the Stelly Amendment. We were doing great things on this board. We were getting faculty raises. We were the SREB average. It was a lot more fun to be a board member, and it's been a struggle lately, and it's difficult. And unless someone can dedicate a stream of income to higher ed and hospitals, it's going to be a very difficult period ahead.
It is, and once again, I'll point out that our faculty and staff have only had 2 salary increases, and this will be 9 years. And it's one reason why I know the main campus lost 27 assistant professors last year. So I'd like us all to focus on rewarding what's working, and rewarding what we're doing for our students, and rewarding what we're doing for our economy. So I agree with you.
King, I'd just like to applaud you, the faculty, staff, and the students for the success. I mean, the numbers speak volumes. And like I said, the continued success despite the conditions. And I want to just follow up on what you just said. I mean, you know, I know we don't have control over the budget, but there are a lot of things that I think you've led the charge on, with us taking charge of risk management, procurement, and, you know, things that we've done to try to create efficiencies. And you know, I just hope that I'd like you and the chairman, and as well as the finance committee, to see if there's some way we can reward those, because it's hard to keep doing it year after year at every campus to be able to put these numbers up, because in the real world, in the private world, those numbers would be rewarded. And you know, while our focus is our students, and you know, certainly they're the customers and why we exist, our faculty and our staff are our product. And the idea is, as the tuition has increased, and now with TOPS, you know, Zach and his peers are expecting us to continue to invest in excellence. Right. And this isn't about raises. This is about the future and the flagship university, because our competition isn't in the state. Mm-hmm. Right. We all know our competition is national. And as people look at us, and now with the changes in TOPS, they're going to look harder at us and say, you know, what is the product? And I think for us to continue to hit enrollment goals, which we have, and I know they're set, you know, with 35,000 students, I mean, we're going to have to continue to attract and keep the one. We've got, not only when faculty leave, then potentially we lose research, right, which is additional dollars. So this board is responsible to our students, our faculty, our staff, our alumni. I mean, donors, we're talking about a major drive to raise over $1 billion. People want to invest in, you know, something they believe is committed to excellence and be part of that. So I would, you know, ask you to, you know, the board, the chair, to consider asking you to put forth a plan where we have fulfill our responsibility to say, this is how we want to reward our staff. Yeah. Other people can look at it and they can make their comment, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think people are looking to you and to us to say, what are you going to do about it? And there are some things we can control, a lot of things we can't. But we've been real creative, and I applaud you and Dan and others, because we're preparing for the future, and this is a long term. And if we just, you know, say, well, we're going to hunker down and not do this now, not do that, what is it going to be like in a few years? I mean, so I think that we have to put the, you know, Coach O talks about, what is it on Monday? What's the day on Monday? Truth Monday? You know, we gotta have a truth and say, this is what has to happen in our opinion. People can comment yay or nay, but at least we've fulfilled our obligation to put forth what we think is going to maintain the excellence at this university and keep this going. So I would hope that potentially in January, you would have your ideas, I'd love to hear them, and, you know, let the chips fall where they may.
Well, that's why this is our number one issue, and I know LSU A, LSU E, and LSU S haven't had a salary increase in 9 years. So the fact that they're losing people is a significant, I'm afraid that if we don't do something, we're becoming a poaching ground. And I think one measure shows the success of what our faculty and staff have done. On the main campus, that 68% graduation rate ranks about 7th if you compare us to our SEC peers, 7th of 14 schools. But our per student spending, all the money that we have to spend on our students, ranks 12th. So I think that tells you that difference in what is happening here needs to be rewarded, and we need to push forward as quickly as we can before we lose any other quality faculty with federal research dollars.
Mr. Chairman, I hope we would put that as the highest priority and move quickly on it, because we don't want to be talking about what we coulda, shoulda, woulda done, and we didn't put forth initiative and be proactive about this, and just, you know, let others tell us what we have to do when we know what we have to do.
Thank you, Rolf. Well, I can tell you, I echo what Stanley, yourself, and King say. I've been in meetings with legislators, the governor, with other board members, and King has never fallen short to bring up this issue and the need of it, from the top to the middle to down. So it is, I know it is a very high priority. We've talked a lot about it today, you know, off in the back. And of course, King, just last week we had a meeting, and he's taken every opportunity to say, we just, you know, this is a top priority. There's a lot of top ones, but, you know, we kick some other can, not this one this time. King.
And you've noticed that we've had a change in our University Foundation leadership. Stephen Morey is going to be leaving for the state of Virginia to go back into economic development in Virginia, which puts a void in our primary University Foundation. And we're going to be pursuing a new hire that will also be a vice president for institutional advancement, a go-to person for our other foundations to work with. That will be a vice president and CEO of our University Foundation. And we've asked Dan Lizell to step in the interim until we get to that, till we identify a person that we could put in that position. We don't think this is going to be a protracted or this is going to be a search that's going to take us that long. We think hopefully we could have somebody in place by February or the 1st of March. We don't want to lose any ground on fundraising. This is December. It's the most important month of the year for fundraising. It's a season for giving, and we just want them to give to us. So this is very important to all of our campuses. Our foundations are working together on one capital campaign. We're not going to lose any momentum. We've spoken to the University Foundation folks, the entire team. They're motivated. They're out there. They're not here in the audience, which is great, which means they're somewhere else, probably asking for money, I hope. So we're not going to miss a beat, and Dan's going to take that over because he doesn't have enough hats on right now. And I'd like to finally recognize Dr. Bouchard, Pennington Boyd Professor, as the Boyd Professor. And Dr. Bouchard, would you please come forward? We have a resolution for you. What? Oh, there. Oh, Will. Yes, Will. Okay. Will, you have the resolution. Okay, would you please read the resolution?
If you want to read it, that's okay, but I haven't. This isn't a resolution, but I want to introduce Dr. Bouchard. Dr. Pennington is proud and honored to have a researcher such as Dr. Claude Bouchard among our ranks. Dr. Bouchard is currently professor and director of the Human Genomics Laboratory at Pennington, and he holds the John W. Barton Endowed Chair in Genetics and Nutrition. His research accomplishments and academic excellence exemplify the very nature of this highest academic honor of the Boyd Professor at LSU. He brings distinction and prestige to the university through the national and international recognition he has received from his outstanding achievements. He's one of the world's most noted experts on obesity and obesity research, particularly related to the understanding of the physiologic and genetic responses to exercise. He spent the first 34 years of his career at Laval University in Quebec, and we were fortunate enough to recruit him to Baton Rouge, LSU, and Pennington, where he served as exec director and continues his research. During his career, he's been a leader at the national and international level in major exercise, nutrition, and obesity-related scientific organizations, and he's literally written the book on guidelines, professional guidelines for health professionals and general public. He's mentored numerous graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, visiting scientists, many at the top of their field around the world. The most important statistic, and we talked earlier about metrics for research productivity, and we're using that metric now, but his is just absolutely mind-blowing. He's published 1,100 scientific papers. He's edited and written 20 books. Now, a scientific researcher is valued by the number of times that work is cited in other work around the world in scholarly publications. He has been quoted and cited 54,000 times, which puts him in the top 3 in the world of obesity researchers. Now, I look at this and I say, well, you know, we want the #1 football team in the country. Well, we have the Nick Saban here, right? Sorry to use that term, but he is at the top of his field around the world for obesity research. Dr. Bouchard is visionary, from his research and scientific advancement to his leadership for Pennington's as executive director. His foresight, along with the vision of our founder, Doc, grew LSU's Pennington Biomedical into the internationally recognized center it is today. And Dr. Bouchard's commitment to the future of LSU and Pennington is not without equal. I'd also, if you permit me, I also have a short letter from the donor's family that has known Dr. Bouchard for many, many years, and if you'll permit me to read this. This is from Paula Pennington. She had hoped to be here today to read this, to congratulate Dr. Bouchard, but she had to go out of town, unfortunately, for family matters. So she asked me to present these remarks on her behalf. This is Paula's statement, and I'm reading it as if she had prepared it to deliver to you, the Board of Supervisors. I'm so pleased to be with you today to recognize Dr. Claude Bouchard for being named an LSU Boyd Professor, the highest honor that LSU bestows on a faculty member. This has special significance for me. As Dr. Alexander said when he announced the award in September, this is LSU's most elite honorific, and it is the acknowledgement of Dr. Bouchard's expertise in the global research community. This award has special significance for me and my family. When my grandfather, Doc Pennington, made this transformative and visionary gift of $125 million to LSU to build the biggest and best nutrition center in the world, he showed tremendous insight into the role nutrition plays on health outcomes. And in the process, he made an extraordinary investment. An investment in LSU, an investment in the state of Louisiana, an investment in the state with an incidence of diabetes and obesity much higher than the rest of the nation. An investment that has made a deep and lasting impact on our understanding these conditions and helped transform the way we prevent and treat them. The result of my grandfather's investment, as you know, is Pennington, the internationally acclaimed research center that researches the causes and treatments of some of the very diseases that now most plague this state and nation. And this distinguished research center has been fortunate from the beginning to be able to attract leaders, executive directors who are world-renowned scientists who invest not only their careers, but the intensity of their scientific passion to achieve my grandfather's vision of a world-class center. Dr. Bouchard is one of those great scientists that invested his career and passion to help make Pennington the special asset it is to LSU and to the state. I am Doc's granddaughter, and you, the LSU Board of Supervisors, are the recipients of my grandfather's generous and visionary gift. Together, we are the heirs and stewards of his investment and legacy. I'm proud to work with you all to continue to see his gift reach its full and complete potential. I want to congratulate you, Claude, on this great honor of being named LSU Boyd Professor, and I want to thank you for your great service to Pennington Biomedical, LSU, the state, and the nation. Thank you. That's from Paula Pennington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you, Dr. Alexander and Dr. Kubek, as the Chief Academic Officer, who played certainly a big role in this. and thank you, Will. I used to come at these meetings regularly for 11 years. I've noticed that some things never change. Dr. Hollier always sat there, and Dr. Richardson also always sat at the same place with several cups of coffee in front of him. I'm truly honored by this unique academic recognition. And by the way, my accent comes from Texas. I spent 3 years there. I'm grateful to those at LSU and elsewhere who have made it possible. There is nothing more meaningful in science than to be recognized by peer scientists. And this is precisely what a Boyd professorship recognition means to me. I'm joining a very distinguished group of past and present LSU faculty, and I fully realize the importance of the award that you are conferring upon me today. The contributions that I've made over the years have been the results of collaborative work implicating graduate students during the 30 years or so when I was at faculty at Université Laval in Quebec City, postdoctoral fellows, scientists from laboratories in the United States, in Canada, and several European countries, as well as many colleague scientists who spent sabbatical periods in my laboratory. In other words, my research has greatly benefited from the generous support of students and colleagues who contributed the expertise and unselfish devotion to collaborative research. I would also like to recognize my wife, Monique Chagnon, who is here today, for a role as a member early on, a member of the laboratory, but for being a true soulmate during all these years in the Louisiana phase of our life. The focus of my science has been on the biological basis of human variation. I consider myself a student of individual differences. For more than 4 decades, I have focused on subtle differences that are observed when people are exposed to caloric or nutrient challenges, thus my interest in obesity research, or when exposed to exercise, thus my interest in exercise biology. In both cases, obesity and exercise research, my science has dealt with the role of variation in the DNA of our genome and how it impacts responsiveness, adaptation to tightly controlled human experimental interventions. Understanding the implications of genotype nutrition and genotype exercise interactions on health and disease remains the overarching goal of my career. I have been fortunate to work in very favorable academic environment to pursue these demanding research tracks. It was the case at Laval University, but equally so in the rich intellectual setting of Pennington Biomedical Research Center. My conclusions about the quality of the intellectual environment and the potential to pursue cutting-edge science at Pennington and at LSU, which I had to evaluate 17 years ago when I was being recruited to become its executive director, were essentially correct. I would like to express my gratitude to LSU past and present board of supervisors, members, and LSU system presidents for their leadership and for nurturing Pennington as well as they have done since 1989. Again, many thanks for the great honor and for promoting me to membership in this exclusive academic community of LSU Boyd professors. Thank you.
I think to shorten what Claude's point was, is to watch what you eat over the holidays, okay? In closing, I'd just like to strike that comment about Saban from the record, and that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Our next item is approval of reports. You were previously provided a copy of the 3 reports submitted for our consideration.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. The motion is adopted. We'll now move to item number 8, committee reports. I'd like to start with the Finance Committee. Before entertaining a motion on the committee recommendations, the full board needs to first vote to waive the 30-day notice for any proposed changes to the board bylaws since we were first noticed about the change slightly less than 30 days ago, and add the item to the board's agenda. Let me remind you, this vote is only to waive the 30-day notice and add consideration of the item to the board agenda. Do I have a motion to waive the 30-day notice for proposed changes to the bylaws?
So moved. Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. At this time, I will entertain one motion to approve all committee actions that were unanimously approved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The motion is adopted. The next board meeting will be January 29th at LSU. We're excited.
Me too.
I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a very happy holiday season. At this time, is there a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor, say aye.
You had asked the item to be added to the agenda, so when we approved, was that when, was everything approved with that? We waived
need a
30
vote
days,
on
but did we
the-
vote on the matters?
We need a vote on the actual matter. So let's strike from the record the adjournment and entertain a motion to approve the actual motion.
Entertain a motion for the actual motion? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. So motion.
All right, let's try adjournment again.
Motion for adjournment, second? Second.
Hey, Scott,
Thank you.
Scott, you fell behind Mr. Moore again.
Way behind.
Can't catch
Thank you.
My partner. Hey, have a great. Enjoy. Yeah.